Property generally is a good investment. That's the first thing to consider here. And it's been said for many years that ever since the war, probably my father speaking a little bit here, property values have gone up. There's no question. You know, there have been peaks and troughs, there have been highs and lows, there's been a recession or two. But when you look at house prices from the 70s and house prices now, they have gone up, and they've gone up more than inflation. So property in itself is a good investment. When you're looking at individual properties and whether they stack up as an investment in terms of renting it out, it would depend very much on the value of that property and the value of the rent that you could get from it per year. So if we can just take a random number, which probably doesn't exist anymore actually, but let's say a house valued at £100,000 and the rent per month is £600 per month. That's £7,200 per year gross. There are a number of little expenses that you'd have along the way, of course, with obligations and the regulations of gas and electricity checks and so on. But let's just take the gross amount. That would be on a £100,000 investment, a £7,200 return, which is 7.2% return on your investment. So in effect, looking at the rate of banks, the interest that they pay you at the moment, that is very good. But what most people forget is, and this is the important thing, to look at the trend in property values. And property isn't a quick sort of fix. It's not something that you can invest in 1 month and sell 6 months later and, you know, having rented it for 6 months and make a handsome profit. I suppose with the recent activity in the market, some people will say, well, I did that and it worked. But generally speaking, property is a long-term investment. And when you look over a period of 5 to 10 years, let's say, the property value will have risen by, the capital asset value of the property will have risen by normally 10, 15, 20%. So you must factor that rise into your annual yield to give you probably something nearer a 10% return. If the value of the property is substantially more and the rent doesn't go up proportionally, then you would be saying to yourself, well, a house at £500,000 with a rent of £1,000 a month might not be a good return, a good enough return on that £500,000 asset. So there'll be a point where the two curves intersect, which is probably the £220,000 mark in our area in the northwest of England, where you would say anything above that becomes probably for renting not viable. Anything less than that, because of the rent you can achieve, will be viable.